This is the Ford Bronco. It's as purpose-built as they come. But is it worth your money? Let's find out. Now, you've probably seen photos and videos of the Ford Bronco online, and it looks good in photos and videos, but trust me, it looks a lot more impressive in person. It is just absolutely massive. It is very wide. You have these huge tires over here, and there's nothing on the road that looks quite like it. Here in the Philippines, you only get one variant of the Ford Bronco, and it's this one right here. This is the Ford Bronco with the Sasquatch package. Now, the Sasquatch package adds a lot of feature comforts, and it also adds a lot of off-road specific upgrades. It gets different tires, different fenders, different suspension. We'll talk about all of those later. For now, let's talk about the wheels and tires. Now, the tires are very important parts of a car since they're the only points of contact of the car with the ground. Now, that's even more true for off-roaders like this because you get a lot less traction when you're driving over mud or sand. So having these mud terrain tires will definitely help. So these are 35-inch Goodyear Territory mud terrain tires. As you can see, the tread pattern is very aggressive. You also have tread on the sidewalls over here. So the actual size is 315/70 R17s. Now, these wheels are actually 17-inch wheels, but they look like 15s when they're wrapped in these Salba Beta tires. So these are beadlock capable wheels. Now, when people go off-roading, they usually air down their tires for better traction. But what happens sometimes is when you air down your tire too much, the tire actually decouples from the wheel, and that obviously is not going to be good. Now, what beadlockers do is they secure the tire on the wheel, so even when you air down your wheels or when you air down your tires, they're not going to demount from the wheels. Let me repeat again that these are beadlock capable. They're not actually beadlock tires. I think you have to buy an extra accessory to make this actually beadlocked. Now, on the hood, you have these attachments over here. Now, they can serve multiple purposes. One, they actually give you a good sense of where the edges of your car are. Number two, if you're loading long stuff on the roof, these can actually be tie-down points. And number three, you can use this to tie down limb risers. Now, when you're off-roading, a lot of times, branches or leaves are going to hit your windshield, which can cause damage or impair your visibility. Now, limb risers, you attach them here on the edge of the hood and on the top of the windshield. And what that basically does is it offers an extra layer of protection for the windshield. The branches, the leaves hit the limb risers before they get to the windshield. Now, speaking of the windshield, you have a very upright windshield over here. Not quite as flat as the one on the Wrangler, but it's quite flat by modern car standards. Also, as you can see over here, the windshield is not attached on the door. It's attached on the front of the windshield. And the reason for that is that the doors of the Bronco, as you probably know already, are removable. Actually, you can remove the doors, you can remove the roof. So this can be a completely open-air driving experience if you want it to be. Of course, you have a smart locking system. You don't have to get the key out of your pocket to lock or unlock the vehicle. It can sense if you're near the vehicle, and it will automatically unlock itself when you put your hand here. Now, the styling of the Bronco is very retro-inspired. Actually, it very much respects the design of the original Bronco released in the 1960s. You have these circular headlights over here. You have the word Bronco spelled out in big bold letters here at the center. You have this modular plastic bumper over here. Over here we have dual tow hooks, and underneath we have plenty of underbody protection made of steel. The Sasquatch package comes with these wider fender flares over here. They're made of plastic. They're also textured to make scratches less visible. Now, these are already very wide. They stick out like 4 inches from the body, but even then, the tires still stick out from the fender flares. The track of the car is that wide. Now, unlike the Jeep Wrangler, the suspension of the Bronco is Partly independent. It is independent at the front, and you get a rigid axle at the back. You get double wishbones at the front with extra long suspension arms. You get Bilstein shocks here. You don't get Fox shocks on the local version of the Ford Bronco. There are no roof rails, obviously, since the roof is removable. The side steps, I believe, are made of metal that could theoretically serve as rock sliders. Over here you have your fuel tank cap. This car has a pretty big fuel tank. So even though it's not very frugal on fuel, the range of the car is still pretty long. The hood of the Bronco is surprisingly light for its size. I'm not sure if it's made of aluminum. I'm guessing it might be. Now, what's under the hood is a V6 engine, but it's a bit smaller than the V6 on the Ranger Raptor. This is a 2.0-liter V6 petrol engine. This puts out 335 horsepower and 555 Newton meters of torque. It's coupled to a 10-speed automatic transmission. Now, if you look at the engine bay, a lot of it is exposed. There's not much wire ducting going on over here, which some people like, including myself. I like seeing where everything is. Also, if you look at the engine bay, you can tell that this is designed for high water rating. The intake is right over there. It's pretty high up. All your electronics, your ECU is mounted way up. Your battery is up here. Your alternator is also pretty high up over there. The water rating depth of the Bronco is 850 millimeters, which is 50 millimeters more than the Ranger Raptor. It's so light, huh? Well, not that light, but lighter than you would expect. Now, the car is about 4.8 meters long, so it is shorter than Ford's other SUVs like the Everest, the Explorer, but it is a lot wider. It is more than 2.1 meters wide. Now, despite the huge Salbabida tires, as you can see, we still have plenty of clearance here. So we can still get good articulation even with these huge tires. The ground clearance is 8.8 inches or 292 millimeters, which is a lot more than any of Ford's other SUVs. Thanks to the Bronco's short overhangs and huge tires, it has a very generous approach angle of 43.2 degrees and a departure angle of 37 degrees. So it is pretty high off the ground, and I'm 5'8". I have to lift up my foot quite a bit. So if you have elderly people getting in the car, that might be something that you should take note of. Yeah, so like I said before, the doors, the roof can all be removed. So this section right here can be removed. This section can also be removed. And this one comes out as one entire unit over here. Now here at the back, it looks like a proper off-road SUV with this spare tire hanging off the back. Now, this is not a donut spare tire, as you can see. It's the same as the other four tires. You also get mud terrains here. You have the Prancing Stallion logo over here. You have exposed hinges here for the doors. LED headlamps. Unpainted plastic rear bumper with rear parking sensors. Now, the reverse camera location is pretty unique. It's actually here at the center of the spare tire, which is a good idea because if you mount it here, it's gonna look weird. There's nowhere else for you to mount it. And this is the rearmost part of the car, so you need to have your camera there. Also, your third brake light is here, also part of the spare tire assembly. Now, the Bronco only has one exhaust tip, and it's down here. Now, unlike the Ranger Raptor V6, the Ford Bronco does not come with variable exhaust, but thankfully, it still sounds pretty good. Now, the rear door of the Bronco opens in two halves. The bottom half opens this way. Now, thankfully, we have a damper here, which prevents the door from closing again. And then the upper half opens this way. And if you want to close it, you have to do it in the opposite order. Now, looking inside here, you can see the roll bar. Now, even if you remove the roof, you're still going to have a roll bar, so you're still protected from rollovers. Now, space back here is quite generous. If you don't know yet, this is a 5-seater SUV. We don't have third-row seats here, which means that we get to really maximize the space behind the second-row seats. We definitely have enough space here for our sponsor for today. Introducing the AtoSport Mobility Scooter, the world's most innovative mobility scooter. It folds into a small suitcase size, and it has wheels so you can move it around like a trolley. It separates into two parts, It has leather seats and grips, an illuminated LCD dashboard, enhanced lighting for extra visibility. You can install optional armrests. It's perfect for seniors as it's easy to lift and unfolds in seconds. It has a maximum speed of 10 kph, shock absorbing flat free tires, high ground clearance, advanced braking system. Be free to travel anywhere, land, sea or air. It has 20 kilometers of continuous driving range. Engineered with flair, designed with passion for performance. Be active, be free, be yourself. Atto Sport, moving life. The Bronco is designed to be driven without the roof and even without the doors, and the interior of the car reflects that. Like, you get plenty of weather sealing here. The buttons on the steering wheel are not individual buttons. They're covered in this rubbery material which keeps out moisture and also dust. Now you have your buttons there for your ADAS and also for your screens. Now we don't get paddle shifters on the Bronco. I wish we did. If you want to manually shift, you'll have to use these buttons on the shifter. You also get these buttons over here on the top of the dashboard. If you look closely, it's covered in the same rubbery material, which again keeps out moisture and dust. Now you have your front differential lock button here, your rear differential lock. Now this button over here is for a feature called Trail Turning Assist. What that basically does is it locks the inner wheel when you're turning to improve your turning radius. You also have your traction control button here and your hazard button. Thankfully, we get a lot of physical knobs and buttons here. Like almost all of the functions of the climate control have corresponding physical buttons and knobs. So this gets dual zone climate control, and you have a knob for each side. You also have a little display here for displaying the temperature. You have a volume knob, a tuning knob, and also because the doors are removable, the controls for the windows are actually at the center console over here. And also, of course, the side mirror controls are on the center console, which makes sense because otherwise, if they're mounted on the doors, you would have no way to adjust the side mirrors when the doors are removed. Now, in terms of materials, the dashboard is made of plastic. Now, for a car in this price bracket, one might expect more premium materials here. But again, since this is an off-road focused vehicle with a removable roof and removable doors, they had to prioritize durability and ease of maintenance. Now, we get leather seats, and leather seats are actually easier to maintain than fabric seats. If you get dirt on it, you just wipe it off. If you have fabric seats and you spill coffee in it, it's going to seep through the foam underneath and it's going to be difficult to clean. Here, you just wipe it off. Now, both front seats are power adjustable. You also get adjustable lumbar support on both seats. You'll find plenty of Bronco badging all over the interior. Like, you have this prancing horse logo on the shifter, which is nicely made of metal. You also have it on the steering wheel. You have it on the seats. You have the word Bronco spelled out here on the dashboard. Now, curiously, you don't see a lot of Ford badging here on the interior and also on the outside. The only place where you'll find the word Ford is over here, where it says designed and engineered in Dearborn, Michigan, USA, and it says Ford here at the center. Now, this knob over here is for your different GOAT modes. So you have multiple terrain modes here. Like, you have normal, you have eco, you have sport, you have slippery, you have mud ruts, you have sand. You just turn the wheel to go through the different modes. You also have your 2 high, 4 low, and 4 automatic buttons here. The 4 automatic mode of the Bronco can be used even on sealed surfaces. So you can use this even on asphalt. You get this huge infotainment screen. It has wireless Apple CarPlay. It has wireless Android Auto. You also get a 360 camera here. And the resolution is pretty good. You have a wireless phone charger here. You have one USB-C port, one USB-A port. It took me a while to find the grab handles on the interior. You won't find them on the A-pillars or on the roof. They're actually over here on the dashboard. They're nice and rubberized. You also have grab handles over here. Now these ones are not made of, they're made of flexible plastic. It actually moves quite a bit. Yeah, in terms of storage, the glove box is decently sized. You have decent storage underneath the center armrest. You also have one USB port on the top of the dashboard. If ever you want to install a dash cam, you can just plug it into this USB port over here. Now you have net storage on the door cards, which is actually a good thing because it's flexible and you can accommodate pretty big water jugs here. Okay, so here at the back seat, space is quite adequate. Legroom, knee room is about 4.5 inches to 5 inches. I'm 5'8". Headroom is about 3.5 to 4 inches. Now you don't have any air vents back here, but you do have quite a few toys. Like you have this AC power outlet. You have two USB ports over here, one USB-A port, one USB-C port. You have your window controls here on the center. Now over here it says no step, like the decals that you find on airplanes, and I can see why. It's not the sturdiest of plastics. You also have a center armrest over here with two cup holders, and you have grab handles on the B pillars over here. Also on the matting you get this 3D Prancing Horse logo, which is a nice touch. Now the Ford Bronco feels like a more modern and more refined version of the Jeep Wrangler. It feels more civilized on paved roads like this because of the independent front suspension. The one advantage of the Bronco over the Jeep Wrangler is that you actually feel like you're giving steering commands to the car rather than just suggestions, which is often the case with a Jeep Wrangler. Now having fully independent front suspension and an actual rack and pinion does that. Now, unlike the V6 Raptor, we don't get variable exhaust in the Ford Bronco, but it still sounds pretty decent. It's not very loud, but people would be able to tell that it's not your regular four-banger. It has a nice grunt to it. Now, unlike diesel SUVs like the Everest, there's not much torque down low. You'll feel the torque at higher RPMs, which I think makes it a bit more fun. So you'll have to rev out the engine to really feel the power. And it does have quite a bit of power. It has 335 horsepower and 555 Newton meters of torque. Although it's a pretty big and heavy vehicle. Sounds pretty good, right? Now, we don't have paddle shifters in the Ford Bronco, and that's one thing that I wish we had here. You can still manually shift using these buttons on the shifter, but it's not the most intuitive way of shifting. Also, there's a bit of a delay. Like if I do a pull right now and I shift at the red line, it'll stay at the red line for a while before shifting. So I think it's actually quicker to do a pull in fully automatic mode. Okay, let's try shifting here. First gear, okay. Shift. See, it takes like 2 seconds to shift. There we go, downshift first. First gear again. Shift a second. Yeah. So there's a bit of a delay when you use the buttons here. Now, as for the suspension tuning, this comes with built Bilstein shocks. It doesn't come with the Vox shocks of the Ranger Raptor. So the ride quality is not as good as on the Ranger Raptor, but it's not bad either. Well, the brakes of the car will take some getting used to. I find myself applying a bit more pressure on the brake pedal to get the car to stop. But once you get used to it, it's not really so bad. I'm not sure if it's an issue with this car, but yeah, the brake pedal seems to be a bit more stiff than usual. The Ford Bronco also has ADAS, which includes adaptive cruise control, blind spot warning, rear cross traffic alert, autonomous braking. The thing about the adaptive cruise of the Bronco though is that it has a minimum speed, so you can't activate it below, I believe, 20 kph. But Once it's activated, it will remain activated until you step on the brakes or until you turn it off. So it will guide you to a complete stop, unlike some of Toyota's adaptive cruise control systems, which automatically turn off once you go below a certain speed. Fuel economy is not the Bronco's strongest suit, and that should be immediately obvious given the vehicle's size, engine displacement, and power. I was able to do 5 kpl in moderate traffic. It goes down to 3.5 kpl when the traffic slows down, and on the highway it goes up to 11 kpl. Like I said before though, the large fuel tank means that you don't have to refuel as often. When you have a vehicle as capable as the Bronco, finding a trail that is worthy of it is a challenge in itself. You're probably not going to test the limits of the Bronco, but because you have so much headroom in terms of capability, you don't feel as anxious when you're going to places like this. You can relax, enjoy the view, and feel relatively confident that you won't get stranded. The Bronco has plenty of off-road tools at its disposal. It comes with front and rear locking differentials, multiple traction modes. It has some of the biggest and most aggressive tires on a stock vehicle. It has ground clearance for days, and it has plenty of horsepower. Its approach angle of 43 degrees is something that you'll only find on dedicated off-roaders like the Bronco and the Jeep Wrangler. The Ford Bronco sells for close to 5 million pesos, just a bit less than the Jeep Wrangler Sahara. Like the Wrangler, the Bronco is also a purebred off-roader, but the Bronco has better road manners. It feels better to drive on paved roads. Steering inputs actually feel like commands rather than suggestions, and I also think that it stands out more. What makes the Bronco a slightly less compelling choice is that Ford has another off-roader in its stable that offers just as much, if not more capability at a lower price. The Ranger Raptor V6 has a more powerful 400 horsepower 3-liter V6 engine. It also has adaptive Fox shocks. It sounds better, it rides better. The Ranger Raptor V6 though looks almost the same as the diesel variant. It looks like a slightly beefier version of the Wildtrak. The Bronco, on the other hand, looks like nothing else on the road. If you want something with greater visual impact and has the cabin space of an SUV, then the Bronco is the one for you.